What's up, everyone? We're here with Alek, a really awesome teacher, but really talk about his journey with being able to work together. Um, say what's up, Alek?
Hey Ben, thank you for having me.
Of
I'm
course.
excited to talk about all of this. I love the creative side of being a music entrepreneur and helping other musicians kind of hear about what's possible.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So if you don't know about me, if you're watching, you're like, who the heck is Ben? My name is Ben. Along with being a music teacher, I work with people like Alek, like music teachers who are wanting to create six-figure studios, but more importantly, like not just earning the security with the income from teaching, but also having the time and having the freedom to have your personal life and be a musician as well. So we've been able to. I've had the fortunate pleasure of working with Alek for the past few months, and we've just finished up his time here, and he's had some amazing results so far. So I'll just like feel free to just like share a little bit more about like what your music school is like and kind of like your mission that you're trying to serve here.
Yeah, sure. So I'm located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My music school is called Triad Music Academy, and we're probably a little bit different than the standard business model of like most of the people that Ben works with. Because we are a brick and mortar, mainly in person. I think we have like one Zoom student right now. And we're only piano. Our whole thing is building lifelong pianists. So we've built up a program. Currently, we have five, it's probably about to be six teachers and 76 students at the present moment, which I think is also about to grow a little bit. Um, and we work with students on having tangible skills that they learn in their piano lessons so that they don't just, spend a year or two and feel like they learn nothing.
Yeah. I feel like low key, like like wish I had you as my piano teacher growing up.
Oh,
Because
well,
a lot of
thank you.
yeah, because a lot of the things that we like connected on was like I grew up with like the traditional way of learning piano, and
Mhm.
it wasn't really fun. It was kind of like the thing that you're talking about with the Russian school. What was that you're saying? Like like can you share a little bit more about like your balance between like the Russian school of doing things, but
Mhm.
also like having that balance between also having fun with it as well?
Yeah, right. So my sort of window into piano pedagogy comes chiefly through my academic experiences before I was a professional. My undergrad was in piano performance and pedagogy, and I worked a lot with the music tree and learning the intervallic piano method, which is one of three types of like American piano method books. There's actually more than that, but it's one of the three main types.
Yeah.
And then in my master's, I was actually in instrumental music education. And then I went and got an artist certificate after my master's in piano. And while I was there, I learned more of like the old school conservatory Russian-ish way of doing things. Not that that way of doing things is like exclusively Russian, but it happens to overlap heavily with how many piano teachers from like Eastern Europe do things.
Yeah.
Um, and so to what you were saying before, I also was a public school music educator, so I feel like I have like a pretty good window into what is the average child capable of at the average age in a
Hmm.
way that most piano teachers don't. I read a study in grad school that was talking about like music educators by instrument, and only about 2% of music educators out of this sample that they had from a bunch of undergrad Big Ten conference music ed majors, only about 2% of them were piano by main instrument.
Oh,
So there's
really?
not a lot of us. Yeah, there are really, I know you're also predominantly a pianist who is a music ed major from
Yeah.
college, but really we're a rare breed.
Mm.
So I think that's kind of the thing is like I've seen what is really good with the old school like conservatory way of doing things and what's really wrong with it in today's world. And
Hmm.
I've also seen what's really nice about adapting sort of the American like music ed, more music for all way of doing things. And how sometimes that doesn't translate into like tangible actual learning.
Results. Yeah.
It's just having fun. And so I strive to take sort of like the technique of the old school way of doing things and some of the influence of, okay, these American kiddie ways don't actually produce learning, but also trying to be fun and to be accessible, which is where I get things from the more American side. Um, and again, I think my big advantage is that I actually was a public school teacher. So I have a better window into like, the average 8-year old who walks in for their first lesson.
Yeah, yeah. I really think that that was like I remember learning about that. I was like, wait, that really stands you out inside of your local market because I know there's a lot of other piano schools around your area as well. So I think that like definitely is very attractive to those parents.
I hope so.
So what I want to talk about first is like before we started working together, like what was your piano studio like? Like what was kind of like the journey
Mhm.
leading up to when we started working together?
Yeah, so I had started my studio already about a year prior to when I started working with you. I the first like few months I was still teaching public school, so April of 2022 was when I filed the paperwork with the state to like officially create my business. I started in earnest really kind of more like in June of 2022, when you consider how many students I had, et cetera. Although I think my first lesson I taught was in May.
Mhm.
So at the time that you kind of came into the picture with me, I had officially formed into an LLC, and I had mostly filled my own schedule. Not entirely, but I was pretty close to the limits of what one piano teacher should probably be taking on at that point.
Yeah. What was that? What did that look like for you? What was that schedule like?
The only day that I take off is Saturdays.
Mhm.
So you have like the after school Monday through Friday, although it's more truncated on Friday. You're not going to teach till 7 at night on a Friday. Nobody wants to take a lesson then.
No.
It's more like 3 to 5 or like something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then Saturdays off, and then Sundays I have from like noon to 6 p.m. basically. I've got my crowd. That also in my case is a little bit more complicated by the fact that I'm also a pianist in the National Guard. So I do have to leave one weekend a month to go to drill, which was kind of the immediate need for me to hire other teachers in the
Yeah,
short term was dealing with when I have to have a military absence because I want that to not impact the kid's schedule.
for
And
sure.
so I had to hire people that made sense to fill in that role.
Yeah. So like, so I guess like what were your biggest challenges that you had to solve
Mhm.
with you know, yeah, when we did work together? What were those biggest challenges?
I think so. Fortunately, finding people wasn't as hard initially as I thought it was going to be,
Mhm.
because I've lived in Winston-Salem since 2017.
Mhm.
And so I had deep connections here and also into the next county over where I got one of my other teachers from. I got really lucky with that in the initial stages. Although that could be for most people in my shoes, I would think that would be one of the hardest things. Um, I think one of the hard parts was setting up the marketing presence and also the content creation to kind of shift from one teacher as a studio into more of like a school for the
Yeah.
piano. And so that's one thing that we worked on heavily. And I was working like hours every day outside of lessons, just to build some of the more curricular aspects that my students now have access to for free,
Oh yeah.
which is something that you helped me sort of structure, what that would look like and what the value of doing that was.
Yeah. And like so being so I guess like another teacher in well, first off, like I think that what's important is like any other teacher in your position,
Mhm,
there's definitely like a lot of different paths
mhm,
that you can go down. There's paths where you can hire out a music like be like a big music school, hire out teachers. There's other
mhm,
paths where you could be more of a solo independent teacher. And I think what's important is that we choose the path that feels right for us.
mhm,
And all we can really do is just move forward and just learn more about us, learn about who we are as a teacher. And I
mhm,
think what you did really well, Alec, was just like go into it with go into it knowing that you're gonna feel uncomfortable, that you're gonna be kind of like a beginner teacher again. You're gonna have to figure out new things. So I
mhm.
like the way that you approach that, like all this change that way.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. And I think another thing that you helped me with that maybe wasn't as much of a struggle, but it was super important in all of that was really like sticking to your values and communicating those values to
Mm,
your audience. Um, because I think that's our competitive advantage in our market is when you sign up for Triad Music Academy, in my experience, most of these parents already have a pretty good idea in their initial phone call of what it is they're actually signing up for.
Mhm.
And I think that is more important in attracting new students than even the quality of the teaching.
Mm,
Um, because it's harder to sort of actually tangibly market what the quality of your teaching is. And I think that's where a lot of music teachers struggle is like they might actually be a very good teacher, but they're not creating something that has, deliverables or whatever. And so it doesn't translate to a parent who is not a musician and is
yeah,
just looking for a program for their kids. That's
that makes
what parents are
sense.
typically looking for, right?
Yeah,
Programs. Yeah.
exactly. That makes sense though, because it's like if you're trying to prove yourself through the quality of your teaching, it's
Mhm.
almost like you have to get them to to really, really trust you, like make that full leap of faith and be like, hey, try it. Try it out. Just try it out. But sometimes parents don't like get to that point. So how are they going to connect with you? It's through your values. And
Mhm.
have you felt like a shift in the quality of your students because you've like really stuck down with your values? Like, what's your experience been like with the new students that you've gotten through the door?
Yeah, I would say predominantly yes. Well, I mean, I don't think I was ever having low quality students
Yeah,
like to begin with on like a mass scale. I mean,
yeah,
there have
because
been
we don't really need to fix that anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't really a problem to begin with, but like the trend is continuing in the direction, that I wanted to. There of course have been a few students here or there that weren't like really committed, and because we show up high enough on Google, we get the occasional person who doesn't really understand what they're getting into with piano lessons, and they just found us first, and
Mhm.
then they realize they don't like it. And in an ideal world, you would all your students would stay for a long time. But that's not a critical mass of the people that we attract. So
Mhm.
I don't really see it as a bigger picture issue.
Yeah. So what do you feel like the biggest shifts were
Mhm.
since working together? And then we can maybe break down like how that happened.
Can you further define the biggest shifts?
Yeah, like what do you feel like has changed with like the biggest transformation with the studio?
Okay, with the studio itself. Well, obviously it's the hiring of the teachers, right?
Yeah.
We have I'm full, I might even be more full than I was when we started because I keep like I'm the only one who's working full time
Uh-huh.
in this business right now. So I keep saying yes to, especially when we find like homeschool people who have a different schedule and none of the teachers are available on that day or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Um, but then we've got three other smaller studios worth of awesome teachers who have started a bunch of students predominantly. We've had a couple transfers, but the majority being a piano studio or a piano school, most of our students are going to be elementary school starting for the first time. And then we even have a teacher who basically is just a sub. And
Mhm.
even at our size with 76 students and only four teachers with regular studios, there's still definitely a need for a teacher to be kind of the stopgap who doesn't even have a regular schedule that just comes in and subs a
Yes,
couple
yeah.
times a month. And she does that beautifully. So everything's looking good. And the changes are rolling too. We ended our time, you and me, but like I said, about to hire another teacher. I've
Yes,
already got some
sir.
students in the pipeline for him, so it's going.
I love it. Yeah. So like just for some context, like what was like your student number before and like what is it now?
Um, so one of the things you helped me with was switching from duet partner to my music staff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a
So
big relief, right?
yeah, my music staff is objectively so much better, and I'm sorry if anyone who loves duet partner heard me say that. I don't like it. But anyway, that means that I don't have all the data in front of me of where exactly we were at, because I was on the old system.
Uh-huh.
But I would estimate that it's somewhere between like 38 to 43 was probably what I was sitting at, and now it's 76.
Nice. Nice. Um, so kind of deeper into that then, like just for you personally, like where do you feel like your transformation as a teacher been? Like what do you feel
Mhm.
like your biggest shift as a teacher, as a person is? Because I feel like that's a big important part about like what we work on here.
Yeah, I think this is a journey I've been on since I decided to stop being a public school music teacher.
Mm,
Um, and I think it only has continued in the time that we worked together. But basically, I only ever taught piano lessons part-time as like a side hustle when I was teaching public school. So I had like one or two method books that I used because I didn't need to use more than that because it was never my main focus. I was mostly focused on the day-to-day of public school. And now I've expanded which method books I teach out of, the materials that I use when I'm teaching, like having a note board that students can use as a tangible manipulative to learn music reading. Where we have pedal extenders on the way to make sure that all of our pianos that we teach out of have a pedal extender, and a new one too. Some of them just need to be replaced. We're looking at ordering adjustable benches because I believe that honestly, most piano benches are not high enough for kids of a certain age, and that they're learning the technique wrong if they're not sitting high enough. It's things like that in a general sense. It's more flexibility in what I need to do in order to provide the most to the students because we've been building and seeing so many different students, and this is just a way bigger part of my life than it used to be.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, like, there's big things happening too. Like got like you got everyone moved into your place and you got a
Mhm.
big wedding tomorrow too. So I'm excited for that.
It's true. I am getting married tomorrow, so
Sure.
it's pretty crazy that we were able to fit this into the schedule, but I'm glad that we could. I'm glad that we could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do a little bit of like teaching here. So I guess like for you, did you want to like share anything that was really helpful for you that for anyone watching? I know that post that we did popped off as well. Like what do you
Oh
want to teach?
yeah. So uh Ben had, for those watching, a Facebook post of his own in a group that got you what, like four students in one
It,
Facebook post or something like
it
that?
got like it got that I remember that one got like at least 10. It
Oh,
was
that got
a
10?
yeah, that got
Yeah.
10 students.
Okay, so I basically copied and pasted your post into a local Facebook group um here in North Carolina, and I edited it to what I needed for my situation, but the
Hmm.
basic content of the post was copy and paste verbatim.
Yeah.
And we worked together on a flyer for one of my teachers that I was specifically trying to market. And I think the final count of students that I got off of that post was 8.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. So that was pretty great. I had, for people watching, I had a teacher who she, like I mentioned before, lives the county over. So it's a little bit of a schlep for her to get to our main studio. So she wanted to teach some daytime homeschool lessons in her own home studio. And I said, yeah, sure, you've got everything you need there. I know you have a real piano. We're good to go on that. And it's also kind of a heavy homeschool area.
Hmm.
And it makes sense too, because I think that she is someone who like really works well with the homeschool crowd. So she's like the right
Nice.
person to do it.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we more or less filled a day of lessons for her where she previously had 2 adult students.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah. And then I got some personal students for myself as well.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if any of the other teachers, I think one other teacher got a student as sort of like a secondary, like one of the students from that post then referred his cousin, you know. So
Yeah,
it just kept going. Yeah.
exactly. Can I show the post? Is that cool?
Yeah, sure.
I have it pulled up right here. So I kind of want to break it down and talk about
Mhm.
like what exactly is most important with this. Hopefully it can
Mhm.
hopefully we can zoom in here. Might be kind of small, but the thing that really helped, I know for me when I was creating this post for myself, was like these three bullet points here,
Mhm.
and I think these three were just a little different than what I had because when I was writing them, it was during COVID. So
Mhm.
what I put in there was like, your child will learn the like, if you want a free trial lesson to be able to, have your kids have social time, in this time of need or have stability in this time of uncertainty. um, that's what we can be able to do. So it's like in these bullet points, what's important is really understanding like who we're speaking to, and especially for the homeschool parents, what we really talked about was like, what is it that the homeschool parents need that is different than parents who just put their kids into like regular public school and things like that
Mm,
as well. So
mhm,
that's also really important right there. But really, like I think what you do really well, Alec, is just being able to just show up in front of people. That's really, and I feel like a lot of teachers they like the thing that they're lacking is just action
mhm.
and being able to just put themselves out there, because it didn't have this post doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that, but it's the fact that you're showing up consistently that really gets people to be like, oh, like I've seen Try Music Academy before, like maybe I might try talking to them this time.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you should say that because my fiance and I were at our synagogue like not that long ago.
uh
And we're at the part afterwards. We call it oneg in Hebrew, it means joy. It's basically where everyone sits around and eats food.
nice.
And so some woman sat down with us and I had like seen her before, but I didn't even like know what her name was or anything. And she was like, "Yeah, you're like the piano lesson on Facebook guy, aren't you?" I was like,
Yeah. That's awesome.
I hope that I am, you know?
Yeah.
And then like another thing to that point is that there's a referral I just got. Like I have this woman booked for a call for her daughter
Mhm.
for next week, and the referral came from a name that she just like wrote down the guy's name, and then I looked it up, and it's a music teacher at a local public school, like the elementary general music teacher. And I'm pretty sure I have a couple students who go to that school, but either way, like I'm getting referrals from people I don't even know.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there you go.
I think the important thing to learn here is that I get a lot of questions from teachers who are like, "Oh, you only work with like online, like teachers who want to be online, um or what if like I have a big local presence and I want to get more in-person students." Like
Mhm,
that's totally cool. That's okay. I think what's important with the marketing part, before you can even get good on it, you got to just show up, and
mhm,
just that bare minimum of showing up is
mhm,
a great way to be able to get yourself out there in the community. And
mhm,
like just like for Alec, like Alec has mostly in-person students, but we're doing like the online marketing to just get your name out there and get your face out there so that you don't have to be like going into schools and doing workshops, or you don't have to be like knocking on people's doors or having big signs or anything like that. Like got the whole community in our phones.
yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. And like we've been talking about, you just got to stick to your own values.
Mhm.
And that I think is scary for people because they're like, oh, but my thing is so specific that nobody will like listen to me on whatever. But the longer that I've done this, the like less afraid I've been to
Yeah.
just tell it how it is, in my opinion, of piano lessons. And I send out my weekly newsletter. And in my area, there is a competing program that really likes to use a certain piano book. And my newsletter for this month was me covering in depth. I wrote like 7 pages about what I think that book does well and what I think it does horribly. Because it's like really, really good in some categories of learning the piano and really, really terrible in others. And it's kind of a weird mix of the two. And so I wrote about how I believe that it could not be considered a method book. It has to be used as a supplement.
Yeah.
And this is something that is probably, you know, it's very polarizing, I would say, in my local community, maybe almost to the point of being controversial among the piano teachers. Um, I at least some of them, probably a
Yeah.
lot of them don't even know what the book is. But anyway, so I was talking to a parent yesterday, the same day I sent out the newsletter, and her daughter had come from that other program initially before she transferred into the studio. And she was like, "Yeah, I read everything you wrote, and they were using that book. And based off of what you wrote, you're right. It has to be used in a certain way, and they were using it wrong."
Mhm.
And I agree. And there I'm like, okay, boom. And she also just referred me a student not that long ago. So
There we
there's
go.
somebody who actually believes in what we're doing, and
Yes.
it's nice to have that.
Yes. Yeah. Really. Yeah. I think it's really important to like stick to your values,
Hmm.
because the people you attract will have those same values, and those are going to be your committed students right then
Mhm.
and there. But also too, what we really need to believe and trust is that there are students like that out there. Even when you feel like in your area or in the world, there's not people who would like believe in the same things you do,
Mhm.
like you have to have faith that there are people out there and that all you just have to do is show up and that
Mhm.
they will be able to like when you if you shout your mission loud enough, like and you shout your values loud enough, like people will be able to hear you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that in a certain way, marketing is just optimism,
Hmm.
in the sense of exactly what you just said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, this is a good chat. Is there anything like
Yeah.
any other pieces of big advice that you'd have for teachers who were in your position like a few months ago? Like what would you want to tell your past self?
Hmm. Yeah. So I did some Googling around just to see, who else is in this community that's like around my size, right? As far as studios go, because we have one institution in town that's probably kind of like the main place to go for lessons. And then we have a bunch of smaller ones. And I would guess I'm close to being the biggest of the smaller ones. If we're not the biggest, we're on our way up there.
Hmm.
Because it's not like everyone's posting their student count, so it's hard for me to know exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But what I did notice is a lot of the ones that are competing that are kind of more at my level have been around a lot longer because we've only existed for a year and a half.
Hmm.
But they have just this random hodgepodge of different instruments that they do, and a random hodgepodge of whether they're in person or online or whatever. They don't have a specific identity. And I think it goes back to the same thing we've been saying, which is values, right?
Hmm.
Triad Music Academy, you know that you're going to get an in-person piano lesson with somebody who, at the very least, has a bachelor's degree, if not a master's degree, in piano or music education, with piano as their main instrument, and has prior teaching experience. All of that stuff is on the website, and that we talk about the books that we use and why we like them and why we don't like them, and how we can't cookie cutter everything because every student is different and all the books have their pros and their cons. And if you just follow the books verbatim, you're not going to get the best experience, you know? And those are the things that we believe in, and those are the things that we do, and people believe in it because it produces results. And we also have, I probably need to work on more of this, but we do have the social proof of, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, other things that people have sent in that I've put on the website that aren't on Google or Facebook. Yeah, that's what you got to do.
I love it. I love it. You're cooking, man. The
Yeah.
thing is like with the identity part, like that's a huge part because being able to stand out of the crowd, get the committed students, it really just comes with being clear on like who you want to be as a studio, but
Hmm.
how we get there. And what I think the deep work that you have done is really understanding what is your identity as a
Hmm.
person and as a teacher. And
Hmm.
I encourage everyone that's watching to not just explore the business side, right? Like
Hmm.
who you are as a teacher and as a studio owner, but who you are as a person and musician as well.
Right. And I think the other aspect is not only are we only piano for the reasons that I just outlined, but my goal is to have it be known in my market that if you want to take piano lessons, the place that is going to provide you with the most different opportunities of things you can do to
Mhm.
have the most thorough experience would be us. And
Nice.
that's why we have like the 4 pillar offer that you helped me build. That's been super important too. I can't believe I didn't
The
bring that up until
values,
now.
yeah. Yeah, you want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that? Like what are they?
Yeah, so it's funny because now this has turned into basically the call that I have whenever, a
Oh,
student
really?
fills out like the
Am I
contact
signing up
form.
for
Yeah,
am I
yeah. Are
signing
you,
up
are
for
you
lessons
signing up
right
for
now?
lessons? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's 4 pillars. The first one is our weekly lessons. Surprise, surprise, piano lessons. If you're going to learn to play the piano, you have to have your lesson. And I walk them through what the lesson packages are. The second one is our recitals and master classes. So
Okay.
we are, to the best of my knowledge, and again, this is one of those things that like I've tried to do some market research, but not everybody puts it on their website, so it's kind of hard for me to know. But to the best of my knowledge, I believe in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Triad Music Academy is the only school that does 3 recitals a year, which is a spring, a summer, and a fall. And I am very confident that we are the only one that does 3 master classes a year, where we've brought in professors from local universities to work with select students. It's been University of North Carolina School of the Arts, Duke University, and Winston-Salem State University. As of 2 days from now, on Saturday, we'll have him in for a master class. So these kids get to do those things. We also have our online resources, which are basically things that I've seen that are really necessary at the beginning levels of learning the piano. We've got supplemental worksheets that students can print out and actually write on and see what they need to see for whatever concept X, Y, or Z, whether that's learning half steps and whole steps, whether that's learning note reading in the clefs on a basic level, the names of the keys. We have all that kind of stuff, and we're hoping to expand beyond the elementary level. We have a little tiny bit already for intermediate, but the goal would be to eventually build all the way up to advanced. And then we have our unlimited lesson support, which is where, regardless of which teacher you sign up to take lessons with, you can text or email me unlimited, however much you need, with questions for your lessons. I've had students send me videos and be like, hey, am I playing this right? And then we realized, oh, that's an F sharp, not a G sharp, or whatever the case may be. And then they fix it in between lessons. Or a student who will send me a picture of their score and be like, hey, I don't know which finger to use here. And then I give them the fingering and they're like, wait, that made way more sense. And so that all goes to me, because I want to have some level of quality control, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
also because I want my teachers to be able to go home when they're done with their shift.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So these things are important.
Awesome. Well, dude, appreciate you for sharing all that. It's like, obviously, it's been a pleasure. It's been really, really fun working with you. And um, if there's any other teachers, looking to ask any questions, is it cool like they hit you up or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just send them my way. I'm more than happy to talk to people. And it's been awesome working with you, man. I mean, it's cool to work with somebody who that's definitely helped.
Awesome, awesome. Appreciate you. Well, cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? Any last things before we head off?
Um, Ben, you've helped me a lot, and I hope that everybody realizes that. I was already in a good trajectory, but things have gotten a lot better. And I think the most important thing is that I've been building this business and seeing a higher overall quality of life correlated to that. And I hope that's what happens with all of your prospective clients,
Appreciate you. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like this is this is all on like I attribute all of the success really for you as well because you made it happen even when there were times when you felt uncertain about things, like you just dove into it head first and you were like, I'm gonna make it work. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and we basically doubled my student count in like 3 or 4 months.
There
So
we go.
yeah.
Sweet. Well, other than that, though, appreciate everyone for watching. If you have any, if you want to chat with me, see if I can help in any way, just feel free to find my Facebook, DM me. Would love to help answer any questions that anyone has.